remember seeing. So, are you guys ready to stamp? Don't forget to let me know that you're here. I know sometimes there are people here because it says there are people, there's so many people watching, but if you don't comment, I never get to know that you were here. So, and that really helps me. Maybe you like to go incognito, and I apologize if I'm being rude and asking you to say that you're here. But, anyways, all right, let's flip over here. I decided yesterday was the first day that I played with this die set. Give it a whirl, okay? And I don't think it's the first time that I looked at it, but it's the first time that I really looked at it. And you know, we were looking for some clouds that we saw on a card and we couldn't find them. Look at these awesome clouds. There is so much stuff in here that even if you never use it for give it a whirl, you could find a use for. Here's a pretty scallop. It does put a hole in the center, but if you were layering it with another piece of paper, you know, you've got a perfect scallop. Here's the scallop. You know, suppose you layered it with a piece of designer paper or something. Or if this was a color and you just had a circle of white. So there's a scallop. Here's another cute scallop that has a stitched edge to it. Now there's stars. I haven't figured out what these are for, these little holes. Maybe if somebody can tell me. Sometimes I really struggle with what things are for. And then check this out. You have 4. I thought it was just 3 pieces. I was telling Linda yesterday that there's 4 pieces that you can use for your little bubble window. Well, I just realized that this one is the 4th one. So it could be a circle, it could be this little window, it could be a heart, or it could be this rectangle. So the first card that I did, I cased this one, and I just saw a definition of case yesterday that I loved. Copy and selectively edit, instead of putting that steel in there, because we always edit it, right? So this is the card that I did, and this is one that will be in the kit for this month's class if you decide to get that for our Zoom call. But check out the little pets in the window, and even the hamster. It's very busy, I know, but I love it. Anyways, so this is my first card that I did, and of course then I can write in here. All right, so I'm going to show you how to put this together, and I realized that I forgot to bring one thing in here, but that's okay. I think I can make do with my dimensionals. So let me show you where I started. So first I cut this piece out with this die, and it puts a hole where it needs to go. And next I took a strip of designer paper and I just laid it across here and cut it out to the width that I wanted. And then I glued that on so it has the stitching in to go with it. Once I glued that on, I stuck this piece on like this, and I put this hole over the hole that was already there from the previous thing. Okay, it just tells you everything to do. It makes it so simple. So I lined that up, so that cut out. So now I have my window. Now, and then I cut this piece out, which I already showed you that die. Let me get rid of these. Okay, we're finished with the dies. And then I cut this tag, and I made it the size, well, I stamped it and made it the size that I wanted. And then I ran that through here as well so that it would also be stitched, so that everything really coordinates together. All right, so now I can fit that right in my stitching there, and that will be good to go. And I think I'll go ahead and put that on. And I'm not going to pop that up since there's so much already moving on this. I think I will just go ahead, and I'm just sliding that to slide it into the stitching so that it matches perfectly. All right, and then while I had this piece off, I embossed this with this Angels of Peace set, And I chose the little angel because it fit here. And the sayings from the angel set did not fit in my window. I didn't have enough. So I pulled out bright baubles because I decided I can do a little message in here with the sayings that are here. So that's what I'm going to do next. Before I put my card together, I found that if I lay this here, in fact, I think what I did was I actually hooked it in there. I'm going to go, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Sometimes it's a little, I don't know, it seemed like it was easier for me to keep it in the window. Now, this has marks in it from the die, but I don't think they're going to be terribly distracting, but I'm going to stay within that to do my stamping. So I chose these, wishing you so much joy, okay? Now this one says wishing you A, so I'm going to delete the A. I'm going to use my marker so that I can just ink the part that I want. So I'll start with this one since it's the first word that I want to put there. Okay. Wishing you. And then I'll turn it. And next we'll do so much, and I'll go ahead and just use my pad because using markers is never fabulous choice, but sometimes. Oh, that was a little crooked. But it's turning, right? So it's straight at one point. There we go. That's a good thing, right? And then joy will be our last window. I might want to just stamp that on. Let me grab a piece of scrap paper here. I just want to make sure I have this one straight. I'm going to stamp it on the edge of my paper here. And it's fairly straight. I'm going to just... There we go. Okay. So, wishing you so much joy. Woohoo! All right. The hard part's done, guys. That is it. That's the hardest thing you have to do. And the next thing that I found, I saw another demo talk about, and on my other card I used those strips of dimension that we have, adhesive strips. I can't remember what they're called, but foam adhesive strips. But I forgot to bring those in, so I'm going to use the edge of my dimensionals. I like this edge because it's nice and thin. So I'll use that and the other side because we don't want to waste this anyways, right? So you might as well put it to use. All right, and then I just need a few smaller pieces. So I think I'm going to trim that off of here. All right. So what you want to do is get this lifted up so that when it's put on down on your card, this is still movable. Okay. So that's what we're doing. And I don't know, whoever demoed this, I feel like they demoed it at some Stampin' Up! Event. Maybe it was on tour or something. They mentioned about putting something in here because this space really tends to push down. So I'm going to put one piece in there. And I'll put it as close to the wheel as I can, just because as long as it's not touching it, it's going to be okay. And then I'll use these little pieces to put right down here. I don't want it right at the edge of my card, but I'm going to put it right at the edge of that wheel. And then I'll do the same thing down here. And, you know, I think if I peel these off as I go, I won't forget that I have something on there. All right, and then we have this one for the bottom. And they positioned it, well, in that you have this area here that you can pop up. And then let's do another piece on this side. Oops, thought I peeled that off, but I guess I didn't. All right, and I need one more little piece to go here. And let me just, I'm going to use this piece that's, well, maybe that's not disconnected. All right, let's just use a piece of dimensional here. There's a half piece that's on this side. I don't want it to look messy if people would peek under to see what's happening under there, right? Okay, so now I have everything dimensional, and let me just scoot this aside. I'm going to go ahead and fold my card so that I can make sure that I have it centered here. All right. I hope I didn't forget anything. Now this is a little bit smaller than a regular card front, so it looks to me like, oh, you know what I forgot to do on this one that I did on my other one? I actually took a circle punch and I cut this out right here, because that way it gives you a little more, like I can lift the card up and turn it, and I didn't do that here, so it's going to be a little harder to turn. Maybe I won't stick that down tight so that I can go do that, because I really like that. I hate seeing people like barely able to turn this. Okay, one more thing I want to show you, and if you watched my my business page video Monday, my Make It Monday, I showed you some fun things with this gold ribbon. Now it's on back order till like near the end of this September, which is really sad because I could just use it for everything. Anytime I have something gold, I want to use this. But I showed how to cut the edge off here, and then it gives you lots of little filaments. This is a piece that's left from that, and it's real fine. And you can see here how you get gold filaments. And I showed my Stamps in the Mail card. I took one of these filaments and just wrapped it around the inside of my card next to the designer paper, just to give a touch of gold, and it was so stunning. I'm just so excited about that. But for this, I wanted something small, and so I took the inside piece of this and I cut it, so I had cut off both edges, and then I cut down the center of that center piece because it was laying here. And then with it still being pretty much together, there's one strand that I might just take off because it's going to make it hard to fold or to tie. It's easier to tie these filaments while they're connected. But what I found is after I tie it, I can do some fun things with it. So I'm going to get this tied really tight. And then I decided to fray and get those filaments all out, and watch what happens. I'm going to move my card because it's going to make a mess. All this lighter stuff that's not shiny comes out. Okay, and all I have left are these cute filaments. So that's what I did. I just came in here and started pulling these apart, and that leaves this stuff nothing to hold on to, and then you can just pull that off, and then you can do the same thing with that, or you can leave that. All right, so I'm going to save I'm going to have fun trying to keep these filaments, but I love them, and like I said, I really like them for on my for just putting a touch on a card. So I'm going to use the one that I did earlier, and I took everything away except for what's on the in the knot here is a little hard to get pulled away, and that's okay. I'm not gonna worry too much about that. You can probably get some of it. But I'm gonna leave that. That's gonna give me something nice to hold my glue dot. Now I used these brads, and I was so excited to get brads back. We have round and square brads, and there are lots of sizes. I used this big one on my other card. I used this one on here because I knew that I wasn't going to have as much to cover that brad there. And I decided to put my bow on it. And I grabbed my paper pumpkin glue dots because they're tiny and they'll fit even better on this little brad. So I will pop that right there and cover my brad. And nobody will ever know the magic of this card, right? So I hope that was helpful. If you haven't played with this die set yet, I hope that helps you to maybe not be afraid to use it like I was. I thought it was going to be really difficult, but amazed at how easy it was.